Came in like a wrecking ball. Gang, Mr. Landis here to talk about building and planning the most important part of your story, the plot.
Gold digger, digging for some gold, yellow metal in my...
Now, in our last video, I said that stories were kind of like tacos. The plot was like the shell that forms the structure of the story. The protein was the theme, the message, and the toppings were the style, how the author uses devices to tell the story. Today we're going to focus on the taco shell, because you can't have a taco without the shell, or it's just a random pile of meat and cheese and sour cream. And I'm not saying that wouldn't be awesome, it just wouldn't be a taco. The shell might not be the best part, but it is the most necessary, just like the plot. It's important to note that there's not a right way to build a plot. But in my own writing, the all plan as I go method has worked out terribly. Now, I sit down and build a general plot from start to finish, so I know where it's headed. Doing this allows you to see if the story makes sense, and if not, why? So here's what I recommend. Answer these 3 questions to get your plot started. Who is your main character? What do they want? And how do they get it? The answer to those questions will form a 1-sentence summary, a super brief version of your plot. Let's do a 1-sentence summary with this amazing book by Rob White called Death Watch. Ben, a college student and outdoor guide, must rely on his survival skills and knowledge of geography to escape the Mojave Desert after a rich client, Maddox, tries to murder him in order to cover up a fatal hunting accident. The who is Ben, a college-age student and outdoor guide, and what he wants is to avoid dying in the Mojave Desert after his client, Maddox, accidentally kills an old prospector. And how does Ben escape? By relying on his outdoor skills and knowledge of the desert. This 1-sentence summary is the book's main highway or story arc that everything else ties into. As you're plotting your story, you should always be thinking, what is my story arc, and does everything tie into it? It's not that little side roads are totally bad, but you should be careful of having too many of them or that they go for too long. Always be thinking, how does this help the main story arc? How does this help move my plot forward? Okay, so now let's take a look at our 1-sentence summary and apply it to a plot diagram to add more events. Here's a traditional story plot. We'll put the who under exposition and the what under climax, because Ben's goal of not dying should be resolved as the story's biggest moment. I'm not going to tell you what happens. Okay. Lastly, we can put the how under the rising action, as Ben's attempts of escape will make up the bulk of the story. Done. Plotting complete, except not even close, because we don't really have any other events or people or things that are happening. But that's okay, because this is where it gets fun. This is where you get to add those other things and the scenes where they take place. For example, what's Ben's background and the people in it that launch him into this role? How does he try to outsmart Maddox, and do those methods work? The push and pull and the rising action are super important because they add tension, which kind of holds that part of the plot together. A good plot should put the character's quest in constant jeopardy because it creates curiosity and anxiety in the reader. Will Ben escape the desert? And if he does, will he have to kill Maddox? And if he doesn't have to kill him, then will Maddox, the bad guy, be held responsible? Now, you don't need to sketch out every single detail of every single scene before you write. Writing is a creative process, and so much great writing happens as you're writing and as you create. But like cooking, knowing what you're trying to make at the end and knowing the base ingredients you're using make the whole process easier. So now what you can do is slowly widen or expand your plot, kind of like you would flatten a tortilla shell. Don't rush this part, because then you could have holes in your plot, and then you would fall into those holes and scream for help, and then blame your editor because it was her fault. My method of widening the plot is to write a short synopsis or a longer summary. This is where scenes get more detailed, where characters start taking shape, and where themes might start to emerge. But while you're doing that, never lose sight of the story arc, the 1-sentence summary that's going to take you from start to finish. Check out my website for a sample short synopsis of Death Watch. Let's wrap up by reviewing our plotting strategy. Step 1, write that 1-sentence summary that answers the big 3 questions, who, what, and how. Add that to a plot diagram, and then widen the plot with a short synopsis. And lastly, I really want to stress that writing is not a science, it is an art. But even art has basic components of light and color and perspective that help the artist do artistic stuff. And I think plotting your story is the same way. Knowing the fundamental elements of the plot will get you to actually writing your story better, faster, and more importantly, finishing it. Thanks for watching.
I got my shovel and my pen and my pick.
Today's video featured Death Watch by Rob White. Today's video featured Death Watch by Rob White, published in 1972 by Doubleday, A book that is so good, it is still on school reading lists around the country and was also made into a not-horrible movie starring Michael Douglas. For more videos on writing and tacos and life, check out my website at matthew-landis.com, where teachers can also find free resources. Teachers can find free web... For more videos on writing and tacos and life and teacher resources, visit my website at matthew-landis.com, where you can also find a link to pre-order my debut young adult novel, League of American Traitors. Feel free to buy one for a friend and for your friend's friend, or 10 for your mom. It's my mom.